Hello and welcome to episode 100 of
Woo-hoo!
Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast.
My gosh. What an achievement.
100 hours of us figuring out what we think about stuff.
I do think we should change the name. What Michael and Ivanka think about nearly everything.
I think it's a good name. My name's Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Magic.
And this week we're just gonna have a little celebration. The plan was to do celebration, although I don't have a cake. But the inter-episode recording wee break, I thought, do you know what'd be cool? Because I've been thinking about going back through and listening back to through everything, which is going to be, it's quite an undertaking. But I just kind of want to know what I'm like because I'm not really sure sometimes.
Who am I?
And just trying to consolidate my identity, just rationalize. But more to the point, but what I thought we could do was go through each of our episodes in sequence and just remember a conclusion from each one. And so this is like a redux of 100 episodes, of 99 episodes. What were our breakthrough little conclusions in each episode, if we can remember them, and just for fun.
Sounds good to me. Maybe at the end, what we should do is think about what recording 100 episodes of a podcast, what have we achieved? What are our achievements? Commitment.
Other than being able to basically be reproduced by Google DeepMind with minimal effort. Just farms our personalities and creates doppelgangers.
Uh-oh.
So let's go. How are you doing, Ivanka?
I'm doing all right, actually, Michael. We are harvesting Satsuma's tangerines, mandarins. I don't actually know. They're small oranges.
So as long as you don't call them easy peelers, I'm happy.
Anyway, so we've got two tangerine, mandarin stroke, whatever, trees. Yeah. And with lemons, you can leave lemons on the tree for a very, very long time, and that's one way of making sure you still have lemons into spring. But what we've observed, and I thought the same was true of the tangerines, but they all seem to be falling off the tree. So they're all being harvested today. So then we're going to eat them all and really feel sick and have a sugar rush. But they're very nice. So that's good. The big news. And I've planted 3 kiwis.
You planted 3 kiwis?
3 kiwi vines.
Gosh. Kiwis grow. I did not know that kiwis grew on vines. So
yes, they grow on vines, and you have to have a male plant, one male plant at least to every 3 female plants.
That's fascinating.
The
diversity of nature. I'm reading a book called Gut, which is about how our gut works. It's very interesting. I'm learning a lot.
How does this relate to my kiwis?
Nature.
But yes, I do enjoy my garden. I tried to work out if my compost worms are still alive the other day, but it's just all too full of too many flies, and I ran away.
I mean, it sounds to me like you haven't got a care in the world.
Not a care in the world. I've also worked out that for my cabbage plants, I can start eating the outside leaves, if that makes any sense, while the head's still forming.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Self-sufficient.
So anyway, how are you, Michael? That's my stories.
Yes. Yeah, I've had a sort of. I think I was so into a project I was doing for the last couple of weeks, and I knew I was overworking myself. But I've just had a pretty useless week. I've just been a bit burnt out. But couple of I just keep trying to do something. My brain's like, no, and I'm like, I'm sure I know about this sort of thing. So I've just had the experience of, not quite being able to understand any of the stuff I want to work on. But today I feel okay. So hopefully I'm back in business. Sharon's away this weekend, so I may end up just working all weekend on something or other. Design's coming along. We've got a colour scheme for the Make a Change app as well. So we're sort of like hopefully moving forwards on that. I'm suffering this thing of... I do think this was from Succession, but I think it was sort of said in a sort of like sarcastic way, but I think it's really true. It's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's something that keeps echoing around. So I've sort of had a lot more slack time than I would have, just because I'm waiting for someone else to do something, and it's not their job really. So it's like it's coming in dribs and drabs, but then I've just been sort of doing other things in that time that I have, and I quite like it. And I think actually the more people I can talk to and the more people I can sort of like be waiting for stuff from, it sort of legitimizes my sort of artistic time in a nice way, because it's like, okay, well, I'm blocked on this, so I've got an excuse to just like make some music this morning and not feel guilty about it. So that sort of feels like a good like way through. I was listening to a long interview with that director guy again that I keep talking about yesterday, and when he was saying I can't really do anything else than this, and I had a little kind of I thought, I don't think I can do anything else than what I'm doing now. I think I've proved that I can't work for people.
Right.
I think I'm just going to embrace that feeling that I don't have any choice, and I'll figure it out. So it's sort of liberating, but sort of scary as well.
But maybe, though, off the back of you having had a funny week and Sharon being away, you shouldn't just work all weekend.
Oh, I know. Maybe. Yeah. Well, I'm going to visit my niece for the first time tomorrow.
Oh, that's good.
So I've made sure I've got some time to do that, who I have not met yet. So I'm going to go. It's over an hour to get. Like, we both technically live in London, but we don't live anywhere near each other. Let's face it. So
that's exciting, though.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go meet this baby, and it will turn from being a strange-looking photo to I'm just waiting for it will just flood me with the I am related to you, I am the most beautiful thing in the universe thing. And then when I see the pictures on Facebook, I'll be like, wow, this baby is so beautiful, and other people will have the reaction of, it's a bit weird looking.
Embrace your genes.
Embrace the genetic programming. Embrace the protocol, the genetic protocol. Okay, let's go.
Let's go.
So I've scrolled down to the bottom of the website and it says episode 1, politics. And I'm not completely sure what our conclusions were about politics, if any.
I think what we concluded was that our conclusion, which came very early in the episode, was that we should call the podcast Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast.
All right,
that's basically the biggest success that came out of that episode. and it allowed us to conclude, or allowed me to conclude, that I wasn't completely embarrassed about listening to my own voice. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, maybe I will do this, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
So these are two great, achievements.
Sort of meta conclusions rather than maybe direct conclusions.
I haven't got a clue what we actually said.
So episode 2 was death, and
yes.
I think the kind of main takeaway of that was that death change is death. You can't have life without death.
And that having experienced death, not our own deaths, of course. You're not supposed to make yourself laugh, are you?
No,
anyway,
well.
having experienced death of close relatives, it does weirdly adds a dimension to life that is
Possibly
not without value.
Not bad, but also possibly not very comfortable either. Like it's like you kind of, the worst thing that can happen if you haven't had someone close to you die is a lot less scary than the worst thing that can happen if you have. So if you're constantly conflating small things with big things, then you are scared. But then I think if death is an unknown, then that makes it much, much more scary to the person that hasn't experienced it. It's a manageable fear that you have familiarity with versus a completely incomprehensible fear that if someone hasn't.
You have no familiar.
Anyway, that's death. That's great.
Okay, we went strong with that.
It's strong.
it's like politics, death.
Well, it's a grand podcast. So episode 3 was technology, and we really did start with the grand subjects. What did we say about this? You were talking about afraid of technology humans versus unafraid of technology humans. And we're both in very much the former, the latter category, in which we have an advantage in that we're not afraid of technology, which is nice.
Yes. But it's quite interesting at the moment because I'm around lots of people that have small children, and I am much more restrictive on her use of technology than other people are with their children. People who don't use technology or are afraid of it,
or understand it at least.
Making your child addicted to a device is not a way to let them to not be afraid of technology.
Yeah, exactly. No, you've got a point. Do you know? I was listening. I did recommend the Buxton Morris podcast episode, but I will mention that. I mean, there's slightly sort of a frustrating understanding of the nature of how phones work. Like there's like Buxton sort of like seen Chernobyl and conflated that with what's happening when his phone gets warm and thinks his face is and he's like, oh, you've got to put your phone in airplane mode at night. It's like, because it's doing all loads of things, and well, yeah, it's getting updates, and you kind of need the updates. Otherwise, it's really insecure, probably. And Chris Morris is still on some iPhone 4 that he doesn't update, and they're both in this sort of like, oh, iTunes might update. So ever since iTunes updated and went horrible, I don't let any updates through. I'm like, guys, no, that's not
Maybe
really.
we should write them an email. We listened to your episode about the FBI, and we would like to offer you some free technical advice.
Just
for the love of God, update your devices.
Your brain isn't going to get fried because your phone is on your table on the Wi-Fi, but someone might hack into it in a coffee shop, and you're both quite famous, so you probably should have some protections against that. Anyway, technology, that was 3. 4, violence. I kind of went on about my Steven Pinker books that I've read, mainly.
Can't really remember much.
I think this was like early on, we were just like, I've got my thoughts about these things and I'm going to record them. So, yes. So then we talked about happiness.
And I think one of the reasons I enjoyed recording that was because we both have put effort into happiness. Money 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I just remember them being really sweary.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we talked about the scorekeeping thing, the father's love kind of thing, all that kind of thing, and wishing there was an alternative scoring system. But also I wanted to sort of find out how to not just hate someone because they're rich. That was something that I think it's hard to not be like, you're rich, I don't like you. And we sort of talked a bit about that. But I think my understanding of money has become a lot more sophisticated since that episode. Like I've looked into it more, that just the nature of wealth and all that whole sort of like growth stuff. Value, the nature of value. I think we've learnt a lot since then. I certainly have. Climate change. Imagine us talking about climate change. We did an actual episode. Oh, yeah. Travel.
Well, travel. The thing I was thinking about travel is Nick and I became massively under consumers after our motorcycle trip. Because
Yeah.
when you ride through a continent, North and South of America, you see the beauty and the destruction, then it's much easier to go, yeah, no, we don't need a new one of those. That'll do. Because that's one of the things.
I suppose another angle of that, it's sort of similar to and then I can shoehorn this into episode 10 success as well, is like you kind of need to feel like you sort of need to feel it for yourself sometimes, like just being told that there's rubbish everywhere or that the environment is in trouble isn't really the same as actually seeing it. And likewise, like, I don't know, like success, just sort of like knowing that you don't want to work in a big Canary Wharf tower is different to, at least, you know, if once you've tried it, you can be sure that that's not your idea of success.
Yeah.
Is something I'm thinking about there. We sort of talked about how it's a bit of a moving target, and it's a problem when you don't ever feel gratitude for the things you have, because you never will, and you'll always be looking ahead, and you'll just kind of constantly be unhappy. So success is really a matter of where you draw the line in the sand. It's completely arbitrary, really, like what you want to consider success, which is sort of annoying in some ways. I don't know how that connects to competition, because a lot of people's success is in comparison with people next to them, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess I'm now just saying some ideas I'm having now since.
Yeah, but I think that's fine. I mean, that's the point. I think, but also it's very hard to separate, I think, happiness and success because learning how to be happy with what you have I think that's the other thing. You always get this thing, learning to be like it's a negative, being satisfied.
Yeah.
But it's like, but then will you have the drive to move forward? It's like, well, yeah, because I'll change.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, maybe we don't need to pick up the.
No. I think it's interesting. It's got to be. I'm just thinking about and since talking about that, I mean, I think gratitude is the other half of is what we're talking about there a little bit as well, and just experiencing that sort of Judaism up close and realizing how much of that is about gratitude, like a practice of gratitude. That I think is probably a very useful practice to have.
Last summer when I was here, when I wasn't working on any of my own projects and I was working with Nick on Restaurants Brighton, I didn't like it at all. I was like, but this is not what I do. Yeah. I've spent years being a successful, but now I'm delighted because I think it's now I accept it as a mark of success that I can be here, contribute to a business that funds us being here. Do you know what I mean? It's like
we talked about health in episode 11, which sort of ended up being quite a lot about snake oil type stuff and alternative therapies and things like that. But I banged on about sugar and alcohol and stuff, right? So that was
and vaccinations. We talked about vaccinations.
Yeah. Oh, there might be a terrorist. Yeah, there might be an anti-vaxxer in the carriage with you.
Yeah.
Which is an actual, immediate, invisible risk of death for you and your children. Episode 12 was media. I don't know how much I'm enjoying this format because I can't really remember anything about these conversations.
I remember us. So my memory of the media episode was that we were ranting about. I'm sure it was that one. Like about people having to have an opinion about, if you're a journalist, you need to actually be a journalist and question people. I think that's one of the responsibility of the media, which then resulted in an email from Stuart going, well, what you've done there is, in which he was right, but I was like, but I didn't want to hear it.
The email that we talked about for the next several weeks for some reason. Episode 13 was the first one where we kind of fell out.
Oh, yeah.
Food.
We did.
And I learned that food is a contentious subject and people are very, it's easy to get very defensive and protective of our eating habits, isn't it? So
it is.
Have you realised that I was right about everything by now?
No.
Why did we decide to
I
talk
think we
about
wanted to talk about luck because of. I think people talk about you're lucky, or aren't you lucky that I'm really lucky that happened, and I think that's why we ended up talking about it because it was
or you're really unlucky. Like people always say, oh, you're not very lucky. Episode 15 is a fan favourite because it wasn't about feminism. It was about me having a kidney stone. Kidney stone update. Anytime I get anything resembling any kind of like pain twinge, I'm like, oh no, it's a kidney stone. But there's literally been nothing since that morphine. So good.
That's good.
But we did talk about feminism.
We did. There's a lot of these episodes.
Yeah.
The thing I'm realising is
well, some stuff we talked
16.
Like I learned about Ivanka's history with feminism, and you know that because it's you sort of think it's not necessary, I guess, if you just but
you just
actually,
live your life.
like, if we don't, you know, you got to think about this stuff. Education, data, morality, truth. Anyway, we just talked about this stuff, didn't we?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Went big themes.
I don't know what I think about any of this stuff. Can't remember any of this. Okay, here's the Harley Davidson moment. This week in Michael and Ivanka's Condensate Pipe podcast. It was cold, wasn't it? It froze up.
It was very cold, yeah.
Education, we said we think it should be big. I said my thing that from the West Wing, how education should be huge. We talked about Dominic Cummings and Cambridge Analytica in episode 18. It's a long time ago.
It is a long time
more recent than that. And we keep bringing that back up. Morality. Relative versus absolute morality and the genetic basis of morality. And we talked about truth, religion, all that kind of thing. Kindness. What do we decide about kindness? This is boring, Ivanka.
I think it might be boring.
It's boring.
Yeah. It's a nice idea. How about doing a bit of... I think we're allowed to give up on this
Well,
theme
no, let's
if
make it super rapid fire. Say one thing.
Okay.
We say one, and this is kind of how I imagined it. Like one thing.
Okay.
Democracy.
Yes.
Democracy massively compromised by wealth inequality. 24. Understanding. This isn't rapid.
No, you can't.
Maybe I should go first. Understanding. No, I haven't got anything to say about that. Mystery.
I know what I did this week. Sorry, that I forgot to tell you about. Is I tweeted, please send science help on the subject of understanding, because the child keeps asking me. The other day at breakfast, she went, "Mummy, I've been asking you for 20 weeks. Where did everything come from? The trees, the planet. Where did we get the planet from?" Okay. And I'm like, so I tweeted, "I need science help. Send me links to books and things because I don't know it well enough to explain it to a 4-year-old." So I tweeted that, and then obviously, and I should have thought about it, despite the hashtag science and please send science help, somebody went, "Oh, did you mean a creationist or evolutionary explanation?" And then somebody else went, "Surely this is a matter of opinion or something." I was like,
what?
Or worldview, a matter of worldview. I was like, look, I can do the stories all by myself. The bit that I struggle to explain is the science bit, because it's all, vague in my head. Where did we get the planets from?
Singularities and cosmic explosions.
I might set her up on a call with you.
Electricity, four forces
instead of having
nature.
an imaginary meeting with you.
I don't want to teach your child science.
Why not?
I don't know.
I'll just set her up with a...
I'm surprised that you don't have that a bit more on hand, but okay.
Are you judging me?
I am a bit. No, I wasn't judging you. I'm just like, maybe there's an opportunity. Fine. Maybe I should make a little series of here's what is going on. Explanations. Suitable for a child.
Because the other thing about having a conversation with a very small child, they go, "Yeah, but how did that bit happen? And why is that true?" Or what? You're like, "Oh, Don't know if I've got the depth of knowledge to cope with this. Anyway, so understanding things. So isn't it nice when somebody can explain something clearly, though, is our sentence in the description there?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah, yes.
I sort of feel like I need to rehearse and practice my, like do a class preparation for when and then go, right, keep asking me about where we got the planets from. Well.
Mystery.
Mystery. Ooh.
I don't know. What makes a good mystery? Are they always fun? Don't know. Tradition. We were like, nah.
We were dissing Christmas.
But yeah, just I am. Do you know? I am going to go back for Christmas this year, and I'm going to enjoy it. I think I'm actually sort of like. There's something I'm like, yeah, bit of overeating. Bit of now that we've established the boundaries of ethical gift giving, I think it's going to be good.
Oh, have you done that?
Yeah, I've said like this. I've brought that up. I've mentioned that the landfill is not. I did say that, I think, last week or the week before.
Yeah, you did.
But, so power we talked about, and just basically how it's a shared illusion, isn't it? Power in our reality is just kind of made up, and it's completely arbitrary what we think it's. But also it is real as well. Okay, that's where I told my nearly becoming a millionaire story as well. So I'm still not over. We talked about Brexit. Don't need to say anything about that. We talked about how talent isn't really necessarily some innate thing as much as the culture seems to think it is. Yeah. Entertainment, I thought, was an excellent one in terms of realization, because I just thought my personal realization that it was about how much energy you give to people seems to be how entertaining it is. Yeah. Regardless of whether it's any good. Like if someone's just working really kind of like making a lot of effort, that's entertaining. So I talked about immigration. Can't remember what we said about that. Inequality, we keep coming back to.
We talk about that a lot.
Self-awareness. Why did we talk about that? Can't remember. Swearing was a very C-word episode, and then I think we calmed down with the swearing after that. Because the realisation, I just, it was like, use it when it's the best way to say something, but not if there's a better way to say it.
No.
Or don't use a bad word when you could use a good word. Ignorance, picture of Trump on there. We did it. I think like the blockchain episode was a slightly different one, and I think that explanation was still pretty good. So,
I think nobody's tried to mansplain Bitcoin at me since then, so
That's
it's
good.
probably turned out well. We had libertarianism has had a lot of downloads.
Right.
Popular episode. But if it needs to be said, I realised how little I think of it. I think I fully expressed to myself how little I think of libertarianism.
Libertarianism, aka selfishness.
Yeah, yeah. Off the back of that, then we went into responsibility.
Yeah, and
I meant to
talk about
Airbnb.
judgment. Why it doesn't feel nice to be judged, because it's reductive ultimately, isn't it? And you just feel like if someone's judging you, that they're not really seeing you properly. Respect, beards. Beards are good for getting respect. We did the fake news one where I actually went to a thing.
Oh,
was
yeah,
good.
you did.
What was the main thing I...
Well, the overarching thing that came out of the fake news one for me was when you quoted somebody at the end of the event saying, just to remind everybody that loads and loads of good stuff happens on the internet.
Yeah, well, mostly good stuff happens on the internet.
And I think this is the thing, when everybody is leaving, I don't think the way to fight Zuckerberg and the Facebook data monopoly is to leave Facebook. I think it's to use it for the good things, to make more good things happen. That's what I think, because I am a naive optimist, an idealist on the subject of the 99% getting together. Yeah.
Yes. We talked about capitalism. I'm pretty confident thinking about capitalism now.
Yeah, that's good.
Which I was not. for ages. So that's cool. We did a couple of attempts to talk about art, critics, what gets to be liked, rage, Brett Kavanaugh.
Oh, yeah. Space.
So I guess we didn't talk enough about the origin of everything in that episode. So
No,
maybe we should do do like a what is it all made of episode.
I think we should.
Well, maybe
I just thought of that. That could be episode 101. Where did we get the planet from, Mummy?
What is all this stuff? It's not. I mean, grand unified field theory, where some people think they're on the cusp of, but
I'll
really,
say that to her. So listen,
But really, it's like there's 4 forces, and there's like 15 different kinds of little things, and then sorted. There's a couple of things that don't quite add up, but basically, it's all made of atoms, and atoms can be different sizes, depends on how many bits they've got, and then everything kind of emerges from that, really. And the way they interact. Meaning was our way of finishing the first series. Because we went to Meaning Conference. We didn't go this year. It's not been yet, has it?
It's not been yet.
But I've been getting the emails. But yes, because as we went into season 2, I've been feeling less like talking. We decided season 2, it just takes a long time to get anything done, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It takes a long time to go anywhere. And I think just in the light of... Yeah, so what I'm thinking about, how do we feel about season... How do we feel about doing... How do we feel? Have we done anything?
I don't know that we have or we haven't. Like, have I got anything to point at? No. I've had lots of more conversations with people trying to do more things, done more of the speaking up, speaking out, that kind of thing. So on a personal level, yes, but on a have we built a thing or done a thing?
We did have done. Yeah, so done good's fallen by the wayside. Because I haven't worked on it. I have, I always want to do something big. And I think this week I think I need to let go of trying to do something big entirely. And actually in the light of like practicing what you preach, it's like the things all we're going to do is like day to day. If I make a electronic thing, I'm just going to make sure I don't completely make it into disposable landfill. If I start getting other people involved in something, I'll bear inequality in mind in that. Just in the I think in terms of my blank state plans and sort of thinking like maybe being able to have a sort of viral impact on anything, like having realised that conservatism is actually an embracing of the idea that some people should have more than others. And that's part of the core belief system, which means that then if you believe that some people don't deserve to have enough to get by, then I don't think any... And also, like, having that conversation about fear versus, like, the conservative mindset being, like, protecting ourselves from hostile external forces versus the liberal idea of cooperation and like equality and bringing everyone up to a same basic level. I think like my idea, which I thought was big enough that it could unite people across that board, I think it will be rejected by conservatives still, because they'll be like, no, because some people are better than others and they shouldn't. We do have a different vision of we want it to be a caste system. So I worry about that. And then also like everything we talk about tends to like seeing how huge Greta has, like, she has become the absolute focal point of so much now, and we didn't really need to do anything to make that happen. Like we did. I don't know. It feels like these ideas are in the air. A lot of the stuff we're talking about is in the air, and like the fact that I don't know if I'm just going back to feeling powerless because I'm having a burnout week and feeling sad, but like I feel like all we can do is just integrate our thinking into our day-to-day activities and the things that we're going to spend time on. Because, like, my whole the silver gun hypothesis thing, I think I was still taking like aspects of that on faith. I'm sort of on the verge of just chucking in the whole thing, which I saw as being one of my more significant activities, but it's not a sustainable thing because it only takes a lot of my time. But then maybe it could be if we got I've given up a bit on my grand plans. I think I'm on the verge of letting go of some grand plans. I've sort of had a good crack at it. I put a lot of time into some stuff, but I think there need to be small plans is what I'm feeling now. And it just needs to be day-to-day awareness in what I want to do rather than trying to kind of like make space to do something that is purely altruistic, because I just can't. Yeah. It's just not possible.
But look at that Mark Benioff guy. You know, if every billionaire CEO of an organisation actually because he's kind of walking the donut, isn't he, really, in the way that he's considering his share. It's like that talk I saw at meeting that you know, if everybody did that, that would help.
Yeah, and it has to be.
And I think that's part of what I'm enjoying about working on Restaurants Brighton now, is because I can look at all the different aspects of what we're doing and just making sure they align with my values. Yeah. And that's fun. And even if we can't make the change straight away, we can start making a little path to the change.
Yes. So, So it sounds like, we've both been through this sort of process. I think I'm still not quite through it, of just accepting that we've got our little corner of the world that we have control over, and we can apply these values to that, and hopefully, and there are ripple effects to that, but you can't force it.
No.
Which I could have said this to you before, but now I'm saying it again, and maybe I know it, like I understand it more deeply. I don't know. Anyway, let's plow. Let's just quickly. Maybe it's just like if anything catches our eye as we scroll up.
We went through these how-to series because we were also thinking about what would attract people to the podcast.
How can we put some more value in this podcast? Like, I want to give people something. Don't be a perfectionist. Carve out time. I did sort of manage to do some bullet points in the highlights, and I think these aren't too bad, are they?
No. I've just scrolled up and noticed our friend Dominic Cummings turns up in episode 60 with his little face.
Yeah. How to get people to help you? I'm just going to review if I followed my advice, actually. How to make things people like. Attention to detail, maybe I could be doing more. Like, the thing is, like, pacing. What I'm finding is to do something regularly means compromising fidelity in a way. I'm trying to find a balance of fidelity and consistency, which isn't so easy. How to do things you don't feel like doing. Ask people questions. How to get people to help you. I have been asking, and people are offering to help me. Also, having a beard helps, and I'm keeping that. How to admit when you're wrong. Impossible. How to deal with negative people. Ignore them. How to be effective. Dom Cummings. God. And that was that before or after he? Yeah, that was before Johnson. So now he's really managed to.
Yeah. Now he's really in.
You did a climate thing. How to maintain enthusiasm. Yeah, I could do with some of this advice. Silver gun hypothesis stuff.
Oh yeah, we went through that phase of reading things, didn't we?
Yeah, so we looked at
kind of doing our homework online.
Yes.
And right, we need to do this, so now we're going to read this.
I'm still constantly coming back to this UN poverty report. And I should really have read the rest of it by now, but I have not.
But I think it's forcing myself to become aware of it with more detail just made me realise and I reference it quite regularly.
Yeah. But actually today, just actually looking at in the last episode, actually, like, okay, what is this EU tax avoidance reform stuff? Okay, I know where the website is now. I've seen it. I have a reference point for what it is. So we talked about some bloody brilliant women, some women for International Women's, Greta, Kate. We thought it was Brexit, but Brexit didn't happen. We had a go at defining an ideal society. We talked about wealth again, extinction, climate emergency stuff. What if we all got paid the same? Self-actualization. Buying less, working more. I think we're trying to do that. Although I think some of these conversations have I'm still digesting in terms of like I need to be able to. I can't just not do anything because it's bad for the environment. I still need to be able to do some things, but I can't quite figure out which things. Anyway, we did some episodes. I think Dystopian Visions was all right.
A lot of episodes.
Disaster Capitalism, learnt a bit. Feedback, Overwhelm, Conspiracy, Practicing What You Preach. Anyway, so this podcast has had it. Should we just celebrate? Yay, we did it.
Yeah, I think we should.
Oh, I feel like this was rubbish.
I think, though, Michael, that neither of us, not even me, who is, amazing in so many ways, neither of us are really good at celebrating. I think part of the reasons why we both can say that we don't like criticism, that we don't want to, putting things out there is hard, being a perfectionist, all these things are about actually, I am a harsh critic on myself. You're a harsh critic on yourself. So when it comes to a point of going, do you know what, Michael? In between earning a living, having relationships, raising a child, having a dog, planting some plants, making some software for free, making some software for money, changing jobs, moving studios, blah, blah. In between all that, we have managed to once a week put out a podcast.
We really have.
It's like, we really have. And whilst there are, I'm sure, 1,000 ways that we could make it better, and there's 1,000 ways we could promote it more, it is certainly not it is. I'm not going to do a negative. It is certainly a sort of a volume of work that I'm quite pleased to have done.
Yes, me too.
How
yeah,
about
I think it's very useful. I'm quite looking forward to having it listen back through.
I'm trying to work out when I might be able to do 100 hours of podcast listening.
Well, last time I got through, because I listened to the whole of Harmontown, which is like 200 episodes of 2-hour-long episodes. And when I did that was when I was cycling to London Bridge and back every day. So I was like an hour on my bike each way. So then I was just had a podcast in one ear for the journey. So that's how I managed. So maybe I'll plan in some commutes,
bike rides,
some bike rides, get a nice comfortable bike seat and just go around London a bit more and listen to the podcast. But I want to make notes as well.
Maybe.
So what's the because I talked about because you didn't respond to this and I couldn't tell if you just hated it, but I was talking about that what's the 2 steps ahead thing, and it's I would quite like to consolidate this belief system we've been crystallizing into something that could be shared in another form than 100 hours of listening to us ramble on about stuff. And I don't know what that would be, but I think that's what's my goal is in listening back, to just kind of collect up all the nuggets, all the nice little turns of phrase that we've fluked upon as we went, and consolidate that into something concise and see what it looks like. See if that might have some value.
We could do a book.
A book. Exactly.
Yeah, okay. That sounds like it. Because I think this is the thing about promoting the podcast to people. It's not this is the workings out.
Yeah.
Not it tends not to be I'll record with you on a Friday and then by Monday I'll be like, oh, now that's why I was like, it sort of goes through your head, or you read another thing or whatever. So I think as a body of work leading towards something, if anything, it leads towards. It would be nice to make some sort of graph.
It's got to be good for something, hasn't it? And like I am, and I said like as my, as just artistically, as I'm on the verge of getting the technology to get out of my way. Like I feel kind of close to finally getting the technology to move out of my way and just letting me express something. It's just making me want to. It's like, okay, so who am I? Okay, I have strong opinions on ukuleles. I can write a heartwarming mushroom song. I can, it's like, who is this? What do I have to say? And then it's like, do I have anything to say? It's like, well, I've clearly got 100 hours of something to say. Like, who is this person that I cannot? I'm just completely. There's self-awareness. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm looking from the inside out. I'd quite like to just observe myself for a bit and see. Okay, that is a positive quality. Let's be that more.
Yeah. I think it's. I think Nick, the idea of celebration for the 100th episode. Nick, when we went on a run last week, Nick was talking about it. He's going, you should do it because he. What made me think about the fact that the reason we've not made this as celebratory as we might have thought that we should or could is because is this the thing that reminded me that I'm not very good at celebrating. It's like, I don't do birthdays very much. Don't buy presents, don't give presents, don't receive presents. But like Nick, when Nick and I first got together, the first birthday that he had in our relationship, I got back from London after work. I was like, oh yeah, it's your birthday. And then I made him baked potato with cheese and baked beans.
God, that is like, the worst.
I love that food. So does he. But the point is, he's like, this is how you celebrate. You're like, not really date related. It's like, we don't do like grand. I like having a laugh with people, but actually sort of
planning
celebrating.
A whole pressured celebration. It's like,
it's just not my cup of tea. But I think partly that's because it's fear of it not going very well.
Yeah, and it's like, do you want to get into that wedding planning mindset about something? It's like, not really. That's not going to help me enjoy this.
No.
I think we're both enlightened enough to realise that putting a lot of pressure on like some moment is not really the point of this. It's about the time. It's about the. I mean, consistency feels like a sad word to use. It's about like all the. It's about the journey.
Well, it's about the commitment, the having conversations that you fall out over, because that wasn't it wasn't just the food one. We had a falling out after meaning, but that might also have been food related. I think so. It's like Michael's discovered my paranoid spot, or my weak spot, or my he's discovered the anorexic teenager.
Oh no! Thing is, we are the podcast is part of our behaviour. Like, we are an assembly of habits. We are a collection of our habits, and we have successfully maintained this particular good habit of having a chat and sharing it.
Yeah.
And like, it's sometimes I'm like, God, how many half-hour things every day am I going to put together? But no, I mean that's all it is, isn't it? Like, what am I going to do for half an hour? I'm going to have a list of 16 things I do for half an hour every day, and that's going to be me.
Yeah. That's quite an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, I'm the exercise half hour plus the music half hour plus the. Yeah. Why not?
Exactly.
So well done us.
Well done, Ivanka. Well done. Well I don't
done,
know.
Michael.
Well done us for doing it despite all odds. Ivanka's a very hard person to pin down at the best of times. So I'm proud of myself for pinning you down for an hour every week, more or less, to have a lovely chat.
Yes, definitely. I think maybe that Michael and Ivanka's grand podcast of lovely chats.
It's a sequence of lovely chats. But how do we celebrate? Let's celebrate by... I don't know. I really don't know.
We could have a grand gesture.
Gesture. What could we could?
What could we do? I don't know.
What's a remote way we could have? I mean, I don't drink.
No,
But-
I drank too much the other day. Oh, did my head hurt?
And when is the date? Is it the date of recording or is it the date of release?
Oh, of publishing. I think it's got to be the release date.
gotta be the-
and then we
so-
can do.
Yeah. So what are we going to do on that day to celebrate
Oh
it
my
coming
goodness.
We will
I
spend
shall be
time
back
with
in
our loved
Brighton.
ones. Oh, you're going to be in Brighton?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I think I will. Yeah. Yeah, week after next. Week after next. I don't want to. On the day of release, though, we should be making a big fuss about it on all our social channels. And then we should include a link on something to say, look, can you please buy our mug?
What if we had a meet-up?
We should have a meet-up, but I don't think I can do it on the Tuesday because I'll have arrived. In fact, I've got a trustees meeting on the Tuesday evening.
Okay, so no meetups in Brighton.
not
with
on the
100
day.
All of our fans coming down.
With all of our 100 episodes represented by cuddly toys.
Well, Sharon could crochet her. No. Well, yeah. Well, this is the thing. Tweet us.
Just, maybe we'll have a day of enjoying the basking in the glory of everybody's positive feedback. Only they will be listening to this probably after.
Yeah, like a few days after. We'll be like, oh,
Damn it!
I don't know.
So yes.
We celebrate by recording another 100. I think that's what we
Yeah.
do. I think that's
Yeah,
what we're
yeah.
going to do. This is it's well and truly part of our.
I think episode
existences.
101 though, it's got to be.
Where did this all begin?
Where
does the universe come
where's it
from?
all come from?
I will do.
Okay.
I will give my best layman's explanation as much as I can.
I'll come armed with. I'll try not to,
some info.
not do the blockchain episode because I think I know a bit more than on
good,
the blockchain. Though I might occasionally channel my 4-year-old. But why?
Yes.
But
well, that's
where? Why? So yes. So that's what we're going to do. We've celebrated 100 by planning the first episode of the next 100
Yeah.
more in advance than we've planned any episode topic ever.
good. Exactly. And on podcast. Okay, let's
Let's put
that's
people
it.
out their misery.
Guys, that's it. Just
That's it. Thank you for sticking with it for this long.
Thanks. Yes, thanks. Let's thank as a celebration. Let's thank our listeners. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts
Thank you very much.
for listening. So thanks for listening. As we just said before, the music, I don't know how that works now. If you like the podcast, go to grandpodcast.com. Subscribe, or do that in the app you're in, and subscribe your friends. Where can people find you on your own?
People can find me at Ivanka on Twitter, Grand Podcast on Instagram,
And you can find... Oh,
variously
Yes.
on the internet.
and you can find me at michaelforrestmusic.com. Maybe I'll do a celebration. Maybe there was a celebratory song in there as well. I don't know. Maybe there was something new in there musically. If there was, hope you liked it. We've got Patreon. Like, now
We
that
have.
we've proved ourselves, by
Yes.
doing 100, getting to 100, support the next 100.
Yeah.
Help us monetize. Help us.
Or if you've got a product you want us to plug, we can fill it with that. No.
Well, I don't know. Like, if it's...
I don't know.
I'm not against... We do sometimes talk about things, but we'd have to, believe in it to mention it. And it's quite nice that we can... I'd rather support it on Patreon so that we don't have to have ad breaks. But, if someone wants to give us thousands of pounds to do an ad, I mean, that's going to test our resolve. Do you want to test our resolve? Come to us with your product. And we'll turn this podcast into an advert for bullshit. What else?
That's it, really. I think. Oh yeah, write us some. If you would be so kind as to write us a congratulatory, celebratory review on whatever channel or platform you receive this podcast on, that would be marvellous. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And once again, thanks for sticking with it. Thanks for... do people even listen to this last section, or do they just cancel it? Thanks for making it this far, and we look forward to taking you along with us as we continue. And see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.